The brutal truth about the history of residential schools has been front and center this week, and the Legislative Building was home to a massive memorial display. The government also announced this week what it would take to remove some more restrictions related to the pandemic. It's been a busy week. Our provincial affairs reporter Adam Hunter joins me now to discuss the week's biggest issues. Adam, let's start with what happened in Kamloops. What did Saskatchewan's premier have to say about the province's role in helping search residential school sites in the province?
Yeah, Premier Scott Moe said that he was going to be listening to FSIN and letting them lead the way, supporting them in any way that the government can to look and search through any residential school sites that they would wish to in the province. There's approximately 20 residential schools in the province, and many sites that have already been listed by the FSIN as ones they're interested in searching. The government says that they'll assist in any way, as I mentioned, but they also want the federal government to pitch in this effort with, technology, funding potentially, and also help in identifying and helping families as well, as this issue has been, really front and center all week long. As you mentioned, Premier Scott Moe going out and checking out that display this week of shoes, teddy bears, or orange that was on the legislative steps. A lot of written messages in chalk for people commemorating the 215 victims in Kamloops. And Premier Moe saying as well that people need to learn about Saskatchewan and Canada's residential schools and their legacy. He's saying that it wasn't that long ago. He personalized it by saying he remembers playing high school sports against residential schools in his area near Prince Albert. And so that was part of the message from the Premier this week, that he'd be supporting FSIN in their efforts, and the government really committing, I think, to this effort going forward.
Adam, it feels like this happened more than a week ago, but this week the province announcing a real hopeful plan to reopen this summer. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing, Sam, because when we get to step 3, the province had always said that step 3 will be triggered when we get 70% of those 18 and over vaccinated. We're creeping closer to that number, but they clarified that a little bit by saying that that'll still happen and some restrictions will probably be removed. That'll be 3 weeks after June 20th when step 2 is triggered. But the big news this week was when 12 and over reach 70%, that will remove restrictions on large gatherings, opening up, potentially filling up Mosaic Stadium, as the Premier mentioned on multiple occasions this week, for the Rough Riders, and also removing the indoor mask mandate. Now, this would like retail, maybe religious services, stores across the province. We know that in restaurants, people can remove their masks if they're being served. That may remain in place. We may also see, places like hospitals and long-term care centers still require masks, but the indoor mask policy could be removed, and the large gathering restrictions as early as July 11th. That would be the soonest it could be done. Right now, we're about 64% of those 12 and over. The province saying they need about 75,000 people-ish to go get that first dose still in order to get to step 3. They're hoping, of course, they get higher than that. And we saw this week and late last week, Sam, that second doses started surpassing first doses. So the province really ramping up second doses. We're seeing, obviously, the age number drop this week pretty significantly. And then next week, we'll see AstraZeneca clinics opening up in the province. The province will be offering AstraZeneca to those who had it as a first shot for a second shot, but still this week announcing as well that because of nasty guideline changes, that people can go get a second shot of Pfizer or Moderna if they had AstraZeneca. So a little more vaccine choice for second shots for those that took AstraZeneca, but the province and the Dr. Saqib Shahab both saying that either choice is a good one for the people of Saskatchewan.
All right, thanks so much for this, Adam.